First of all, I will introduce you several questions about temporal region which I didn't finish last time. Yeah, if I don't mistake, we don't finish it. But the main part of my lecture will be about face. We'll start to study face region, one of the most important parts of the head, because of several reasons. First of all, guys, this is the biggest visible part of the human body. And of course, cosmetological problems here has great importance. So I will try to show for you specificities of the layers in facial region, which is determining some cosmetological manipulation in this region. Yeah? Right. Usually try to do it outside.
It's so small.
This is the simple questions which I will not explain to you. It's too small. If it is too small, is it my problem? Am I must to see how you try to insert it into your body?
Yeah, I didn't know it's
Sit down. No any noise, wait 1 minute before I will open your homeworks and we will start on work. By the way, both PPTs you can find in download folder. As I simply, after the lesson, you can take it. Now we need attention to me. As we decided last time, temporal region, that is also part of our fornix of the head. Yeah? You remember, fornix of the head has one single frontoparietal occipital region and one double temporal region. What about I want to attract your attention? Mainly into practical questions. Question number one, listen me attentively. Temporal region after frontoparietal occipital region, it is second most usual place of traumatization. Second most usual place of traumatization from the head region. Quickly, go sit down. Please, here, sit down. Second most usual place of traumatization. But there are some specific. Now look here, please. Traumas of frontoparietal occipital region, usually it is trauma of soft tissues. Because bones here are very thick. Traumas in temporal region, after 2 weeks, I will start to teach you operative surgery. And we will speak about bone fractures also. And you will see that one of the most usual place of the skull bone fractures, I can say even the most usual place of skull bone fractures, it is the temporal region. You can ask me why. Everything is simple, guys. Usually the cranial bones contain 3 layers. External compact, diploidic layer, and internal compact. Here in temporal region, middle layer absent. Squama of temporal bone doesn't have diploidic layer. It has only 2 compact layers. More of these, listen me attentively. Inner compact layer, twice thinner than outer compact layer. It is twice thinner. In the medical literature, it has special name. We call it lamina vitrea, glass-shaped layer. Lamina vitrea. Remember this name. Let's say information number 1, which you must remember, the deep layer or deep compact layer is twice thinner than outer layer. But there are second problem also. Now imagine that in front of me I have some virtual ball. Rubber ball, simple ball for football. And imagine that by my finger I try to press to this ball. This is your school physical classes, yeah? You remember that then we press into the ball. Superficial layer of the ball mainly feel the pressure force. But deep layer of this ball feel 2 types of the forces. Pressure and tension. Because then you press this ball, you deformated it. That's like on the inner layer, we apply not one force, but we apply two forces. Of course, our head, it's not the ball for football. But anyhow, that is the round structure with the cavity inside of it. Of course, bones is not the rubber structure. But anyhow, during the trauma, the cavity is deformated. Let's say we have two problems. Problem number one, thin internal contact layer. Problem number two, two forces. Thank you very much, which is influencing to two layers. Let's say remember forever, in the traumas of head region, especially fornix of the head, in 60% of the cases, we have separated fracture of internal contact layer only. What does it mean? After the fracture, look, if I will palpate the region, I will not find any deformation. Because external layer will not be damaged. I can find the problem only by X-ray. Yes, of course. Let's say remember forever, guys, in the future you are not only the doctors, you will be future parents. You will have your own children. Remember, strong rule. If there are trauma of the head, and if it is serious trauma, yeah, not like this, make X-ray. Make X-ray because no any palpation, no any superficial examination will not detect it problem of internal compact layer. In my experience, unfortunately, I remember the situation in Russia, then child of the doctors died because of non-made X-ray. After the trauma, it is the home trauma. Parents palpated the region, doesn't find anything. After 3-4 hours, critically intracranial pressure is increased because that lamina vitrea is broken. Like this glass, if I will break it, a lot of sharp pieces will be formed inside of cranial cavity, which is perforated all structures, and especially, first of all, sinuses. Sinuses, because sinus is located just under the bone. What is the sinus? If my roof will be the bone, under this roof I have dura mater, which is cover the brain. And as you remember, dura mater forms the processes, and inside of these processes we have sinuses. So what will be first of all perforated? Sinus. Only after sinus perforation we can have, for example, perforation of brain, arachnoid matter. But first of all, dura mater will be perforated. And perforation of dura mater, yesterday I showed for you. If between me and him I am bone, he is dura mater. We have epidural space. Behind of him, we have subdural space. And then dura mater is perforated, mainly hematoma will be here in subdural space. And subdural hematoma twice more dangerous than epidural one. Because if it is subdural hematoma, exactly brain is pressed. If it is epidural hematoma, he will protect it, the brain. You understand me or not? That's why to apply big attention to the persons who have the trauma, especially in temporal region. Why I say especially? Because comparable with frontoparieto-occipital bone, you see this bone is twice thinner. And fractures of this bone is very usual. You can say me, but sir, behind of this bone we don't have big sinuses. Yeah, we don't have in temporal region big sinuses, but we have middle meningeal artery, about which I spoke before. And middle meningeal artery trauma is much more severe than the trauma of the sinuses because arterial pressure is much more bigger than venous pressure. And time for formation of mortal case will be shorter. Do you know how much blood inside of cranial cavity can be mortal? Not so much. 200, 300 milliliters. You usually then you go to give the blood, you give more than 200-300 milliliters, but it doesn't make any problem for your health. But accumulation of the blood inside of closed cavities, and especially in cranial cavity, it is mortal. Because the pressure will be increased, all another steps you remember, cerebellum will be inclinated inside of foramen occipital major, and it will press the medulla oblongata. Heart will be stopped, breathing will be stopped. That's why please remember, again I tell you, then you study my topics. First of all, think about practical meaning of the information. That is the most important. If it is understandable for you, next what I want to introduce you again, especially practically important, it is your mastoid region. Now look, we finished to study the fornix of head. Now we come to base of head. From base of head, there are only one region which you can reach from outside. It is your mastoid region.
Mastoid.
Show me, where is your mastoid region? Yes, of course. If you want to find mastoid region, you will put your fingers behind of your ear. And here you can simply palpate it triangle, this triangle which you see in the picture, which we call mastoid process or mastoid region. That is same. Then we say mastoid region, we understand mastoid process, and vice versa. What is it, mastoid process, and what the practical meaning? Before come to this question, let's understand why only mastoid process can be reached surgically from outside. It is very simple. All another base of my skull is covered by my neck tissues. Sorry, it will be very stupid to cut these important structures of the neck to reach the base of the skull. There are another way, surgical way to reach the base of skull. I speak about it. It is from nose. You endoscopically break the cribriform bone. You remember, yeah?
Yes.
Lamina cribriforma. It is the place of passage of your first cranial nerve, nervus olfactorius. Of course, after this, the person will lose forever the smell, because you will cut the fibers of nervus olfactorius. But roof of the nose, it is the floor of your cranial cavity. It is the base of the skull. That's why if you will break lamina cribriforma, you will enter inside of the base of skull. But you need technical equipment, neuroendoscope. Without neuroendoscope, this surgery is impossible. For example, this surgery we do in case of hypophyse tumors. If there are tumors of hypophyse, through the nasal cavity, through the cribriform plate, we enter inside of the cranial cavity. But for emergency cases, this entrance is not used because you need a long time to prepare it, up to 20 minutes. Emergency case doesn't give you that chance. That's why remember, please, single region which is reachable for us from base, it is mastoid region. You can palpate it and you can make access to the mastoid region. Mastoid region has several specificities. Inside of your mastoid region, there are air cells about which I speak last time. Look up, please. Biggest air cell is open in this picture. This is huge, big space, which we call antrum mastoideum. Remember this term, antrum mastoideum. That's it's not big puzzle for you that some of your skull bones contain air cavities. Now, remind me, please, which another skull bones contain air cavities? I want to listen his answer.
What did you say?
Friend, my English is very simple. I twice repeat my question. You really need third times repetition. I can. Which skull bones contain air cavity.
In mastoid.
Nothing more. It is just my example. 2 years you don't study in medical university. You come here to my room from street. You don't study the skull bones. You don't know about sinuses, nothing. First time which you listen. Awful, friend. I will do my best to dismiss you from university. I promise you. Not only you, all the students who study in that way will be dismissed from university. Because friends, it is awful. 3 semesters you study anatomy. 3 semesters. You don't know about frontal sinuses. You don't know about Hymorian sinuses. You don't know about sphenoid sinuses. You don't know about ethmoid sinuses. Just only mastoid cell. You listen now and say, yeah? There are several types of cavities inside of our skull dome. Majority of these cavities, which I name now, connected with your nasal cavity. And this is spaces which is used for respiration. Air cell, which is located inside of mastoid bone, doesn't have any tension to respiration, but it has another response.
Balance.
No, friend, not balance. Air cell, which is located in mastoid bone, it is necessary for our voice detections. And here we have vibration of some voices. I think you know that today we have the special earphones, which is applied in mastoid process. It is bone-provided earphones. They doesn't insert it in your ear. They put it just in your mastoid process. I want to remind you historically about famous composer Beethoven. Beethoven, how listen? Beethoven doesn't listen anything. He put the stick in mastoid process and touch it to piano to listen the music, because we have bone hearing. Then you are under of water, your tympanic membrane doesn't work, and you listen the voices by your mastoid process. You can say me how. I will be glad to explain it for you. This air cell, antrum mastoideum, has bone canal connection with middle ear. There are special bone canal which is connected from to middle ear. We call it aditus et antrum. In English, it will be the bone communication. Aditus et antrum. Aditus et antrum connected cavum tympani, your middle ear, with antrum mastoideum, air cell inside of the mastoid process. That's why voice vibrations exactly from this place pass to your middle ear, and from middle ear by oval aperture pass to your deep ear. And it makes the waving of your endolymph, which is located in deep ear. And you listen the voices. But here also there are trouble. Don't forget that your middle ear has connection with your pharynx. We have tuba auditiva or eustachian tubes, which is make connection between nasal cavity, superior portion. If you remember, your pharynx divided into 3 portions: nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. That's why upper portion, nasopharynx, has the apertures of eustachian tubes. Tuba auditiva, these eustachian tubes, child, they have horizontal direction in your childhood, and they have big diameters. By the age, the length of the eustachian tubes is increased, but diameter decreased. And from horizontal, they become to oblique. That's why inflammation of eustachian tubes, which we call eustachiitis, is much more usual in childhood. And unfortunately, infection from eustachian tube can be spread into middle ear with formation of otitis. Remember these terms, please, but middle ear connected with the antral mastoid. That's an infection from middle ear can be spread into antral mastoid, and we will call it mastoiditis. Awful problem, because in 25-30% of the cases, it gives the osteomyelitis of the mastoid process, inflammation and necrotization of the bone tissue. How I can treat it? Can I give the antibiotics and treat this problem?
No.
Why? Why I can treat, for example, otitis by antibiotics, eustachitis but by antibiotics, but mastoiditis, no.
Because there is no blood vessels. It's a
Clever person. Thank you very much, of course. If you need to have effect from antibiotics, you will have enough soft tissues inside of region of inflammation. Because by vessels, these antibiotics will come to the region of bone. But sorry, inside of this sinus, we have very slim mucous membrane from soft tissues, nothing more. That's why, by the way, samely in the case of your sinusitis. Why sinusitis? Usually not good treatable problem, and usually they become to chronic inflammation. Because antibiotics doesn't completely kill the microbes inside of sinuses. And to make effective treatment, usually we do punctures, cleanings, drainagings, and anything else. It's like we make local treatment, not systemic treatment. And here also, I want to show for you now this special triangle. I think it is visible for you, which is located in anterior part of mastoid process. That is whole mastoid process. And this is special triangle in anterior part. We call it triangle of Shippo. Or in European literature you can find McEwan triangle, name Shippo-McEwan triangle. That is triangle to make so-called mastotomy or androtomy. Inside of this triangle we make the aperture, and this aperture make the entrance into antral mastoid. Operation is called androtomy. Now listen me, you should remember borders of this triangle, because touch wood, if you will make this aperture or breaking of bone outside of this triangle, look to me, here is more interesting fact. If you will make it, for example, above triangle, or in front triangle, or behind triangle, it will make huge complications, in 80% of cases mortal. Now, to prevent these complications, let's understand and remember the borders of Shippo triangle. Look to me. From up, it is imaginary continuation of your zygomatic arch. You remember when we speak about borders of temporal region, we say that it is upper margin of zygomatic arch and imaginary continuation of it. Because your zygomatic arch finish in the level of porus acousticus externus. Behind of it we don't have. Behind of your ear we don't have zygomatic arch. But we have imaginary line. From anteriorly, look here please, it is posterior margin of porus acousticus. We call it suprameatic spine. By the way, porus acousticus presented by another part of the temporal bone, which we call tympanic part. As you remember, your temporal bone has 4 parts. 4 parts. Name, please, these parts. Squama. Now I call the second part. Mastoid. Tympanic. The most important part of the temporal bone. Most important part. You listen what about we speak generally. We name now parts of the temporal bone. They say, what is the name of last part? They say, how? approximately 40 persons here, little less, and nobody didn't know the most important part of the temporal bone. It's joke, guys. Huh? Once again? Petrous part, of course, or pyramid. Petrous part or pyramid, guys. So everybody from this group should say Petrous part or pyramid. Because inside of Petrous part of or pyramid we have your deep ear. We have the semicircular canals which is responsible for your equilibrium. How it's possible? That's why listen me, remember forever. Once again, three borders of Shipple triangle. From upwards, imaginary continuation of zygomatic arch. From in front, posterior margin of bolus acousticus, we call it suprameatic spine. And from behind, it is anterior margin of this rough part of mastoid process, which we call crista mastoidea. Look, anteriorly your mastoid process smooth, posteriorly rough. You know why posteriorly it is rough? Anatomy. Again, anatomy. Because two muscles fused with the bone posteriorly, and usually in the place of junction of the muscles of the bone, we have rough surface to enlarge. And second, omohyoid is called omohyoid because from one side it is attached to scapula, from another to hyoid bone. Why it should be attached to mastoid process if it is omohyoid? Huh? Awful, guys. Awful. Why styloid attached to mastoid if it called styloid? Styloid, it is process of the temporal bone. No, the sternocleidomastoideus, he said. I say, what else? Posterior belly of your digastricus muscle. Posterior belly of your digastricus muscle. Anterior belly attached to your chin and come to the hyoid bone. Posterior from mastoid process come to your hyoid bone. That's why we call it digastricus, because it has two bellies. That's why 1 minute attention, don't sleep. If I will bring the bone above Shipple triangle, I will be entering inside of the middle cranial fossa and I will damage the brain. Mortal complication. There are exceptions. For some students it will not be mortal. But generally we need the brain. Yeah, we need the brain. So some students live without brain. Now look at this. If you will break the bone behind of Shipple triangle, here remember forever. Now look. Put your hand in Shipple triangle in mastoid region and palpate it posterior margin of your mastoid process. That is place of projection of your sigmoid sinus. Yeah? This is approximately diameter of sigmoid sinus. Then you break the bone in this region. Exactly, you perforate the sigmoid sinus. Mortal bleeding, even don't try to arrest it. And finally, then you break the bone in front of it. It means tympanic part of the temporal bone. You damage nervus facialis inside of its canal. Again, anatomy, canalis nervi facialis. You remember, yeah? By foramen stylomastoidea, finally it is come to outside, but before it is passed inside of the canal of temporal bone, which we call canalis nervi facialis. Of course, it's not mortal, but you will make the person awful ugly, because all impressional muscles in the side of the trauma will be constricted, and face will be turned to that side. This is awful complication. Persons make even suicide after such kind of, because life inside of society stand very hard. Let's say, remember please, this surgery we can make only inside of Shipple triangle. Outside of Shipple triangle in any place, or it kill, or it make a huge complication for the person. Now we need attention to me. Yesterday in my one group I spoke about it, about krenlien's diagram. I will not tell you now it, because everything is written and in one group we discuss it. Just what I want to attract your attention. Guys, some persons from your groups will work in the surgery. And you should know that it is very important to find the place of bleeding vessels. Doesn't matter which vessel is it. It can be blood vessels inside of your peritoneal cavity, inside of your thorax, inside of your cranial cavity. So before making of access, you should understand projection of these vessels. Otherwise, you can open the place of the cranium which doesn't show these vessels, and your operation will be not effective. Effective way to find middle meningeal artery, about which I speak 2 minutes before, it is to draw in the skull Krenlien's diagram. Krenlien's diagram contains 3 types of the lines. It is sagittal line, it is horizontal lines, and it is vertical lines. All another information is written in the slides. Please take it and study. And now write the name of main part of my lecture. It is the face region. It is the face region. No any noise, guys. Region of the face. I say no noise.